All right, welcome back, my fellow agents. Yesterday was Super Scary Saturday, and I am X7, your host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters, and your agent of malevolent monsters. And who more malevolent than Dracula, as portrayed by the late great Christopher Lee. Sven did air this last night on his show, and it was the first time I'd seen it. So I thought, heck, we can review that. What the heck? Why not? It's pretty good. I mean, there is something missing, and it's pretty obvious what it is and who it is. But before we get too much further into that, please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment. What do you think about these hammers? There used to be back in the day, say until the 90s, maybe, when more Dracula movies started coming out, but there was a big, Universal versus Hammer. And this is a Hammer movie, of course, which did not air a lot here in Fossilbet. But let me know what you think. I like them both. I'm glad I don't really have to choose. It's not that big a deal. Some fans really thought it was then. But so, having said all that, let's dig into this. We do get a really cool opening here, animated blood, or it's a black screen, and the blood runs down and turns into this. The movie was produced by Hammer Films, of course, distributed by Warner Pathé / Warner Seven Arts. Uh, Warner Pathé in the UK, Warner Seven Arts in the US. It was released November 24th. Wow, almost exactly, not right today because it is the 16th as of this recording, but November 28th, 1968 in the UK, and February 6th, 1969 in the US. I don't know if anything was cut out by now. 1969, yeah. So things were a little more permissive. There's no nudity in here, but there's a lot of blood and suggested violence, though nothing gory or anything gross. But there's a lot of blood, as you'll see. Now, of course, it stars Christopher Lee and directed by Freddie Francis, who I thought did not ever do quite as good as Terence Fisher. I thought he was always the better director of the two, but it's quite good. I mean, runs a compact 92 minutes. The budget was £175,000. And that probably made money. Apparently, it was Hammer's most popular um, movie of the, let's see, Hammer's highest grossing film. Eh, I don't think it's as good as the original their Dracula, Horror of Dracula, but it's a good movie. I mean, Christopher Lee's great. So this is our young altar boy going to his church to clean it up. When he finds a bloody bell rope, the priest, the head priest there, shows up. This guy's freaking out, the poor kid, because there's blood, and he goes up and he sees a bloodless corpse. She's got vampire bucks. Now this is supposed to have happened in the previous movie, I believe. This was the fourth Hammer Dracula movie, the third to feature Christopher Lee. The first one, of course, was the Horror of Dracula. Then the Brides of Dracula, which had uh, had Van Helsing in it, but no Christopher Lee. Prince of Darkness has, I believe, Van Helsing in it. Does he? Does it? Um, Christopher, yeah, it does not have. So the third one was, this was the fourth one, and we didn't get back to, did we get them teamed up together again yet? No. I mean, they don't team. I thought they were in a lot more pictures together, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, but they were not. Um, so we flash forward a year. Dracula's been destroyed, allegedly, in the water. And the Monsignor shows up to find out what's going on in this beautiful, idyllic town. It's supposed to be somewhere in Germany ish. You can tell by the steins in the bar or the pub. He talks, and his priest has lost faith because of what happened a year ago. Even though Dracula's gone, he says, "Let's go. We're going to go to the castle and fix this. There's nothing there that can hurt you." So off they go, and they walk for a while. And this guy can't handle it, so he falls down and he gets cut and he bleeds. The Monsignor, who is, does he have a name here? Monsignor Ernst Mueller, Rupert Davies, who is in lots of things. And he puts this large golden cross from the church on the, over the castle, so nothing can come in or out. Nothing evil, that is. But the blood, when the priest fell down, he landed on some ice, which cracked, started to melt. Dracula gets blood in him, and I thought he'd turn to ash, but I don't. I get them confused. I can tell you, most of the Hammer movies, or not, pardon me, most of the Universals, but the Hammer movies, you know, so that when he wakes up, he sees Dracula's reflection in the water. So I'm confused. I thought vampires cast no reflection. It wouldn't matter what was mirroring it back to them, but apparently you can see him in the water. But, he just looks amazing. So, and those, oh man, he suffered for his art with those red contact lenses. Yikes. And we see them about 7 times, more or less. I'm just guessing. But the Monsignor goes back and can't find his priest. But there it is. Dracula can't get in. He can't touch that. Don't hurt him, Hammer. That's the only one I have, I promise. And once again, later on, there's another, Hamburg or something. The Monsignor returns to his place, and that's his cousin. Returns to his village, and that's Anna Mueller as Marion Matthey. And the priest empties a tomb out of a woman, of course, so Dracula can have a place to live. He's supposed to sleep in the grounds of vampires are supposed to sleep in the grounds of their own home country. It's kind of glossed over there. But there's some great shots. The cinematography here is wonderful. The direction is good. Freddie Francis is good. There's our ostensible hero, Paul, Barry Andrews, and his boss, who is Max, Michael Ripper. They have a very funny and pretty cordial father-son sort of relationship there where they can tease each other. But, that haircut. So here's his pub. They're going to the pub, and they're doing this game where they're holding a beer up, while they drink. They're going to waste beer, even German beer. And here is the real star of the movie. That is Barbara Ewing as Xena, not the warrior princess, or as Sven said, Princess Warrior. But she's really good in this. I don't know what else she's been in. Let me look here. Published. Oh, she's also an author. Here's her acting. Dracula is Risen from the Grave, SOS Titanic, Eye of the Needle, Hunters of the Deep. A couple of Amicus movies. So, but she's really good. She's quite good. Obviously, this gentleman is very impressed with her charms. She tries to feel out Paul, probably literally. She's very forward, but he's like, you have too many boyfriends already. So he joins in on the game, finishes his beer. His girlfriend, this is the lovely Veronica Carlson as Maria Mueller. And she was in Horror of Frankenstein, which Sven may have seen. I'm just not a big Hammer Frankenstein fan. They're not bad movies. They just have never been I've seen a couple of them. And if he shows them, if I can find a copy, I'll watch them. This copy came from the Internet Archive, of course. And I highly recommend, if you do download stuff, you should contribute to their continued success. But she walks in. Paul gets all butterfingers, drops the beer on him. Everyone laughs. She's annoyed, mostly probably because that Xena's there knowing that Xena's putting the moves on him. But obviously she thinks it's funny that they're going to meet her mom. And it turns out that the Monsignor's there, and they both smell the beer on him, and they have this fun chat. Unfortunately, the Monsignor wants to know what religion Paul follows, and he's like, well, I'm not a Catholic. And he's like, you're not a Protestant, are you? Very funny line. But he says, no, I'm an atheist. And that ends that night. Right there, he goes out, she's crying, and uh-oh, the priest, who's now under the control of the Prince of Darkness, Dracula, he's not looking at Xena because he wants to ogle her charms. And Paul goes in because he's all upset, and he has schnapps. He wants schnapps. And as Penny said, schnapps. It's fun to say, schnapps.
What are we drinking now?
Peppermint schnapps.
Why would you buy peppermint schnapps?
Because I like peppermint and it's fun to say schnapps. Hey, Leonard.
What?
Schnapps.
Schnapps. You're right. His fun.
I'm relatively sure Penny had more schnapps than David did. Paul did. David doesn't. Nobody I know named David cares for schnapps very much. They can cause hangovers that are unpleasant. But be that as it may, Paul here has 3 schnapps and he's gone. Toast. So now Maria decides she's going to climb out this town must be very small because she can run across the rooftops and get to the top of the bakery/inn pub because David is the bread maker. And old Xena's like, I've got him in bed. She gives him a smooch, but he doesn't respond. Maria shows up and says, what's going on here? And you can tell by the look on her face when Xena says nothing is going on, she means nothing. They have a little discussion, but she, apparently she trusts her barmaid there. And he's not feeling it, and he is not going to feel well in the morning. Not that I know from personal experience about peppermint schnapps. Ugh, just the thought of it. Anyway, he wants some water. She kisses him goodnight. And old Max says, why aren't you home? And she's like, oh, got no one to go home to. But unfortunately, she goes out, and the day for night shooting here is adequate. It's not horrible, but it's also not great. But guess who she runs into? Dun, dun, dun. And, she's looking for love in all the wrong places. He puts the bite on her. Maria goes home, and apparently if you're just bitten, you still cast a reflection, maybe. But those are some gruesome bite marks. They're not those little punctures that you'd see in Universal if you saw them at all. She's hiding them from Paul. The priest shows up and wants a room. So Dracula says, he wants Xena to bring Maria to him. And she does. She tries. She puts I don't even know, yeast, something, flour maybe. And you can see who she sees. She doesn't see Xena, so she doesn't know who kidnapped her. But there he is. Now, they did some subtle lighting changes in the background, which work really well. Excellent. It's just the main problem here is there's no true foe. His arch foe is Van Helsing. And once again, I thought that they did a lot of most of the Dracula movies together, and they did not. So, unfortunately, Paul yells for her. She snaps out of it. Xena runs away. He's looking, then he can't find her, and he runs out there and says, has anyone seen I couldn't resist? What do we do with a problem like Maria? But eventually he finds her. She's distraught and in shock. Dracula, she says, he confronts Xena, his slave now, and says, what do you, and she's like, spare me. And he has this smile, which is terrifying. He's so good. And, right, it's just like out of a Chang-Chi movie. It turns red right before someone's going to die. And I think they gave her a schnapps, but we're not sure. Just calm her down, which should calm the pants off most anyone, although none of the women in this movie wear pants. And obviously he's bit her, and she is turning into a vampire, and she looks rather happy about it. So, but he tells the priest to destroy her before she can, become a vampire. He burns her, which is a method of destroying a vampire. But he throws her into the pub's the pub's furnace, which is coal, and we see, right down to her boots and everything. Apparently, it's that hot that it incinerates every part of her. maybe vampires. I don't know. Why didn't they just pull her out into the sun and let her disintegrate? Because she's not a vampire yet. It takes like 3 days, 3 nights, I think, before they rise again. But her mom's unhappy. She's been out all night. Max and Paul have another heart to heart about Xena. He complains that Xena's not hasn't been in. Unfortunately, Paul gives the priest a note and says, "Go give this to Maria for me." And he's like, "Yeah." But the Monsignor is there. He gives her some soup. She tells him she thanks him for being such a great uncle. But unfortunately, the window's wide open, and guess who's there? Now, in some vampire lore, the vampire cannot come into a house unless he or she or it has been invited. This apparently does not work here. He just comes in. Maybe she said come in, but suddenly, so she collapses and he sees the marks on her neck and is like, uh-oh. And I don't know if he's reading the Bible. It sure looks like a Bible. You do read, I've read the Bible. And he's studying up and realizes that Dracula's alive and well and alive and dead and living in wherever this is, and whatever town. He goes to get her because that's his revenge, but the Monsignor shows up and has that tiny little crucifix. Drac runs away. He gets whomped on the head by the priest, and he tells him what's going on. He sees the priest and dies. So Monsignor's gone, but the priest is trying to help him, but can't overcome Drac's soul commands, though they put a cross on her that was going to be for her, 18th or 20th birthday. Her birthday coming up. I like the way this coffin is set up, so he just gets out, and you'd think he'd fall out, and really great shots. The cinematography is amazing. I've really looked into that, but he gets, and I like the use here of negative space. There's just this thin line of color. I say that a lot when that happens, I know. But the priest conks old Paul on the head, down he goes. But the crucifix stops him, and Paul wakes up, concussion protocol notwithstanding, and says, "Okay, you're going to help me now." And he takes him to go stake old Drac, which looks very painful. It's bloody. This is oozing, and it's not like, it doesn't look like red paint as we've seen. But he gets up because he won't say the Lord's Prayer. Paul won't. And I thought he was going to impale somebody here, but he just throws it. David. I keep calling him David. I don't know why. But Paul throws fire at, that is Christopher Lee. Maybe not. The nose isn't quite there, but he throws fire. It catches everything on fire. Now I'm sure this was a stuntman, because he runs out. His hair is on fire. Holy crap. That's suffering for your art too. You better have gotten a bonus for that one. And there's the fiery. He just throws it down. The pub could have burned. Poor Max. But he goes to collect Maria. David confronts him, or Paul confronts him. Gets thrown into the smokestack with its optically enhanced smoke. This is another great shot. Now, they would reuse this coloring for Legend of Seven Golden Vampires, which has a different actor for Dracula, but does have Peter Cushing in it. I think Peter Cushing is actually the more important part here, because he says a lot more. Dracula talks in this one. I don't know if he did in the previous one, and I know he didn't in Horror of Dracula. He just stood there and scared the crap out of everybody. But he goes back and talks to Max. Off he goes. She's fondling his coffin. Weird. They really kind of leaned into the whole sexual vampire thing, which was common at the time. By this time, you'd had all sorts of vampire stuff coming out. And as we reviewed in Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, Spain just leaned right into that. But he's riding there. He goes to the pub that the priest had gone to and tells him what's going on. And they're like, "We're not helping you." So the altar boy, who is now mute, says, "I'll take you to the castle." Paul escapes. They say, "Let him go." But it's like, you let Dracula live, you're going to be surrounded by vampires eventually. You can't count on Van Helsing to show up every time you need him. Now, Dracula has a coachman, apparently, because this guy just comes out and takes the. That's just not explained. It's a little weird, but he probably put some other people in thrall when he woke up. She's walking around barefoot, and geez, look at her poor feet. And he carries her up to the castle, tells her to remove the cross, which she does, throws it into a ravine. Now, anybody with any sense knows what is going to happen here. I mean, it's Paul shows up and tries to rescue her. They battle, and this is like in the last 5 minutes. It is the briefest of tussles. Van Helsing had one in Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. You can find that episode. And it lasted longer than this one. Not much longer, but I mean, for Dracula being as all inhumanly powerful as he is, he gets defeated easily and a lot of times. They both fall over off the parapet of the parapet. That's the right word. Well, they both fall down the mountainside. Paul gets caught by a tree. Dracula ends up impaled, of course, through the heart. Although, if you look at that, that is not going to end up through his heart. That's going through his stomach. And it is. I mean, he's impaled. I guess maybe his heart's down lower. Who knows? But he rattles around. She's released from his being in Dracula's thrall. And the priest is as well. He recites the Lord's Prayer in Latin to consign Dracula to death again. And when he finishes, the priest passes away. And that's obviously not real blood. They can go with it. That it just doesn't look real. Sorry, but I'm sure he was almost bleeding from the eyes from those contacts. There it is. Gruesome. The priest expires. The moon is full and bright. Only one way to kill a werewolf. Team Werewolf, go. And they're happy. And Dracula's gone. And that is the end of the show. Good movie. Entertaining. I would say a B minus. I'd say B minus. Yeah. As far as grades go, I don't know that I'll watch it again, but I liked it. I mean, I'm glad I watched it and can mark off one more Hammer Vampire movie I'd never seen before. So it was fun. All right, tomorrow is Animated Monday, and we'll be reviewing 4 episodes of The Savage Dragon. And I don't know what we're putting on after it. I lied about the other thing yesterday. Sue me! So, my fellow agents, until our next assignment, this is X7, signing off and phasing out.
If I can only get unstuck, I'll be swinging at one of my most fearsome foes next week. Be sure to tune in next week and watch me swing into my strangest trip ever in Revolt in the 5th Dimension.